From the King George's Estates in downtown Port St. Lucie, Florida, what day is it? Tuesday evening, everybody, and welcome back to KCN60 right here on DARPATV.com. Kevin Knessa here with you for the next hour, and to everybody who is a regular, I welcome you back to the program, and to anybody who may be here for the first time, I welcome you to the program as well. And we do have two special welcomes. Of course, the very first one goes out to our buddy Kieran Bolton, who is joining us for the first time. He is, of course, in the United Kingdom, north of England. I forget exactly what town Kieran is from, but he's a great Facebook friend and always has some really, really funny stuff and things that he writes on Facebook. A great guy, so welcome Kieran. And, of course, Charlie, too, who we haven't seen here before. You may have been here before, so I apologize if you have, but I'd like to welcome you, of course, to the program as well. We haven't done a KCN60 in a couple of days, so it's good to be back. And in another beautiful day here in South Florida, 75 degrees this afternoon and sunny, not a cloud to be found in the sky. Beautiful, beautiful February afternoon as the New York Mets are already in town for spring training, getting things underway. Just the other day, I was driving over to Walmart, and right beside me was the New York Mets general manager, Sandy Alderson, driving along as well. So it's kind of cool. This time of year, the Mets players, when they get here, always get to see them in different parts of the town doing certainly different things as they prepare for the upcoming baseball season, which, of course, will have them with one of the worst records in all of Major League Baseball. But we'll talk about that in a little while when Joel the Mouth joins us. He'll be on board at about 10:10 Eastern Time. He'll be joining me to talk some sports. And we're also going to talk about American Winter, which I'm going to show you a clip of shortly. It's an HBO documentary about how families struggle and how it's worsened in the wintertime because so many people lose their electricity, they lose their water, they lose contact with so many of the important things to just get by. And in this country, it's unacceptable that there are people who actually go without electricity and who go without running water and who go without food to put on the table. So I'm going to show you that clip from HBO, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Also, if we have some time tonight after we talk to Joel, I want to talk a little bit about House of Cards, this second season, which I binge-watched in 1.5 days. My God, it was incredible. If you haven't seen it and you have looking for a new show to watch, please consider watching House of Cards. And if you don't have Netflix, I can send you to a site where you can get it for free, or if not, you really want to see it. I love the show so much that I'll give you my Netflix password for a couple of days so you can watch it. That's how good House of Cards is, of course, based on a British show, so we'll see there. How about this one? A Christian pastor, died the other day because his church worships snakes, and they're all poisonous, and this poisonous snake bit and killed this pastor. So if we have some time, we'll get to that. And then also Jimmy Fallon's first night as the host of The Tonight Show did not go quite according to plan, if you know what I mean, if you had a chance to see it. So we'll see. So I'm going to start off with this clip from HBO's American Winter. It profiles a bunch of families who live in the state of Oregon where winter is not very pleasant. And you will see that some of them struggle, and some of them have difficult times getting the bills paid and getting things in order. And I want to talk about that, and I'll talk with it to Joel when Joel gets on the line. But without any further ado, here's this clip from American Winter, courtesy of HBO. And, of course, again, if you like what you see here and you'd like to see the rest of it, I will certainly let you know how you can do that afterwards. So without any further ado, here it is, American Winter, the first few minutes from HBO. Okay, we're back, and that was a clip from American Winter, one of the most incredible documentaries that I've ever seen. And without any further ado, he's on the line already from a few blocks away. Well, actually, it's a few more than a few blocks away now. Here he is from Port St. Lucie, Florida, or Fort Pierce now, right? Is it Fort Pierce, or what is it?
It's on the cusp, man. It's like if you go down like two lights, it's Port St. Lucie.
Wow.
And then, like, it's weird, man. It's like right on the border of Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie.
Wow. But at any rate, here he is. It's Joel the Mouth. How are you, Mouthy?
Kevin Knessa, I'm great, and the words you used to describe American Winter as one of the best documentaries, I fully agree. and it's astounding. I mean, I don't know any other word to use to describe something like that.
Could you imagine that there are people who have to wake up and when they go into their bathrooms, can't flush the toilet, can't run water to brush their teeth or shave or make a pot of coffee. And some people need to use a flashlight because they can't pay their electricity bills. I mean, how is it that we live in a country where this is possible still, Joel? I don't understand it. I really don't.
Kev, I don't mean to interrupt. You know, you and I, we agree on a lot of things. But here's something that I think may upset some people, may upset you. But let me tell you from a personal life. I have a family. I have 2 children. I have 1 on the way. And you know me, Kev. You know me for a long time. And you've known me as a person who has never had a problem getting a job. Now, I understand that specific people have specific skills that they want to utilize. They want to be paid the most amount of money that they can be paid. But in some of the situations in American winter, I think people are not sucking up their pride enough and taking any job that's out there. And if you look on Craigslist, if you look on any job site where there may not be jobs, and I understand some people are overqualified, you don't get hired, you're underqualified, you don't get hired, but how many people who are taking, in American winter, there was one gentleman who lived in a trailer who had a family who was doing handyman stuff. Well, why not try to find something outside of that? Like, are people trying 100%?
Well,
that's my question.
Come on, you know the answer to that. You know that just in 2009, I was out of work for 2 years, and I applied everywhere. Like that one guy.
You're the exception, but in that documentary, how many of those guys did you see go out and apply for jobs? That's just my question. And I think some people wouldn't take that job at McDonald's or take that job as cleaning toilets to support their family because they think they're better than that. Not saying that's the norm for everyone, but before we give a full sympathetic pass to the people in American winter, let's look at the situations. You know me, I haven't found a hard finding a job. You, on the other hand, have. It's different for different people, but you're trying. You tried for 2 years. I always try. Sometimes I don't think people are trying, and I think that's a problem.
Well, that also
people don't want to try.
That also happens though after frustration sets in. Like, for example, let's just say that you're unemployed, okay, and you're on unemployment for a full year, and every weekday from, let's say, 10 to 5, all you do is sit at the computer looking for jobs, sending out resumes to places. After a year, you don't get a single interview out of that. And I went through that. There was the entire year of 2010. I sent out my resume probably 400 times and didn't get a single interview. That includes sending my resume to places like Best Buy, the Apple Store, ShopRite, Pathmark, all these other places. After you do that so many times, can't you understand how the frustration sits in and people are finally like, what am I wasting my time for? Because even if I do apply for a job like that, I'm not getting it anyway.
No, I do understand that, but when you have most of the people in American winter had families. And I think when you have a family, you know me personally, Kevin.
Yeah.
And when you have a family and children involved, it's different. You need to take your situation, your level of, I guess, sense of urgency would be the word I would use. And I don't think everyone, sometimes takes that into account. That I would do anything for my family right now. I would take a job cleaning up shit in horse stalls if that helps my family. And I think some people don't take it to that level. Not everyone. There are exceptions to every rule. We know that. But I think sometimes you get, as discouraged as you get putting out your resume, I think sometimes you're just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to get a job. I'm discouraged. And you let that kind of overwhelm you instead of the fact that I have mouths to feed. I have a family. It's not just me.
Okay.
I think, your sense of depression on yourself hurts you when you have to look at the people. I would give anything for Paige and Carter. I would do anything. And I would take any job.
I know that.
You can't get discouraged. And I think people sometimes in America people get too easily discouraged from a sense of negativity.
No,
Not everybody.
I understand that, but what if, let's say, like, how long have you been back in Port St. Lucie? Like 2 months now,
I've been
almost?
back for a little bit over a month.
A little over a month. Let's say month and a half. Okay, so let's say you're back 6 weeks and you didn't get that job that you got. And right now you're here 6 weeks and you're wondering how you're going to pay rent or how you're going to feed the kids. Do you have that same outlook if you didn't get this job that you got? I mean, and I got to be honest with you. I don't know if, in your case, maybe it's a mixture of good luck and, of course, experience helped you in this particular job, but maybe you just have a good stretch of luck that every time you apply for a job, you get it. Whereas other people who we know personally who are dying for a job apply to every single job and never even get a phone call back, let alone hired. So does it change if you didn't get this job? Honestly.
It might change, but I would look at my possessions. I would say, hey, I can go, and there are so many other outlets now. You can go donate blood. You can go donate plasma. You can sell your possessions. Not saying that everyone has possessions, but I don't know. When you have mouths to feed, and maybe you're right, Kevin, maybe it's my experience. Maybe people who said when I was in my 20s, bouncing around job to job, that was stupid, and I should have found a career. But in my opinion, the best thing that ever happened to me was the fact that I worked 577,653 jobs that I can go and I can have this different experience in different places. And the attitude of, hey, I'm a handyman, I have 15 to 20 years experience, that may hurt in this type of economy. And I think when you look at the stability, and there was another HBO documentary that had about unemployment on Long Island.
Oh, yeah.
One gentleman there who lived through 9/11. He lived through the first World Trade Center bombing. He was on the train with Colin Ferguson, and he was saying how he was overqualified, but how he stayed with one company for a long time. And I think, as great and well and dandy as that is, I think in nowadays where they're forcing education upon you and they're forcing trade schools upon you, I think developing, I guess, being a jack of all trades and a master of none in this lifetime now, in the generation we're in, is kind of more beneficial to you. And I think, more people need to have that outlook where they're saying, hey, school is important, this is important, I'm not negating that. But if you have multiple skills in multiple areas, that kind of helps you nowadays.
We're talking to Joel the Mouth, and you bring up some excellent points, especially the whole idea of being a jack of all trades. But I want to take this another step further with you, Joel. You're also still in a pretty desirable age group at 32. And I'm at the point where I'm going to be out of my 30s in a couple of months. And that worries the crap out of me because for some reason, when you turn 40 and you get older than 40, your chances seem to slim down, right? I mean, and Mawa's agreeing with this in the chat room. So do you have a certain extra advantage again on top of this because you're still in your early 30s, whereas if you were 42, let's say, you would not necessarily have this idealistic viewpoint of what it's like to have to get a job?
No, I think you're right. I think as much as you look at the Fair Labor Acts and everything, that age is not discriminatory, you're right, Kev. Maybe because I am in my 30s. You look at my father. He hasn't had a job in 3 years. My mom, who worked at one company for 20 years, who is now in her 50s, can't get a bite. I think you're right. And I think that's a problem because a lot of employers, well, you might be a jack of all trades and a master of none, like I stated, they can pay you a little bit lower and you can work your way up, where in your 40s, sometimes that's not good enough.
Yeah.
And I think age discrimination is something that's not talked about a lot, that's swept under the rug, and you're hearing the words overqualified, or you're hearing the words that we're not going in that direction, when the true reality is age isn't, it's not a number. It is something that they probably, the hiring managers, the HR, have a little sheet that says if you're over this age, we're not going to hire you. And I think that's wrong. And I think people who have that experience and been in the workforce for so long in their 40s still have something to give.
You're right.
you hear guys working until they're 70 now.
Right.
So 30, 40 years old.
You're young.
You have 30 years you can give a company.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I see it all the time whenever we go to Publix, because there's a lot of senior citizens who work at Publix and Walmart and certain places, partly because they can't afford to just live on their meagerly little pensions and Social Security. But Mama brings up the point that I get frustrated about the most, Joel, and that is that there's no way in hell you can prove in court if you've been discriminated against by a potential employer. You and I know it. Mama knows it. Jim Graham knows it. Everybody knows it. We know that there's a discrimination out there that says if there's a guy who comes in with gray hair as opposed to a guy who comes in with slicked back blonde hair, the guy with blonde hair is going to probably get the job over the guy with the gray hair simply because he's younger. So that's pretty disgusting. But unfortunately, there's no way to get past it, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's not right. Because, you look at a lot of Americans, and not to bring up, as much as people hate on the fact of Walmart, let me tell you something. I was at Walmart today in St. Lucie West, and it was about 3:30. And there were more older people working than I've ever seen anywhere. You can take all you want from Walmart about not paying them, discrimination, this and that. They give more elderly and disabled people opportunities that I think more companies should take a page out of their book. And like you said, Publix as well. And I just don't understand why there is a discrimination on age. With age comes experience. It comes knowledge. And it's not that everyone is all-timers at 40 years old. So I just don't understand it.
Just a couple of things in the chat room that I want to address with you, Joel. Little Bit, who is of course Big J's wife, Gina, says, I think medical might have something to do with it because you're more likely to use your medical insurance when you're older. That's a very good point, right? I mean, it's true.
Yeah, but to that point, Kev, look at what they're doing now. And with the Obamacare, a lot of companies can manipulate that with loopholes where they're only offering you part-time on a minimal hour. They can give you 33 hours and not have to offer you health care.
Well, true.
So that's out.
Yeah,
that's out the window now.
So that's a good point.
Should be looking for the elderly.
That's another good point, because there are a lot of people who are simply not going to get it. So that's an excellent point. Bill, our buddy Billy Scarterfield says, his last job he got hired when he's 61, and he considers himself lucky for that. And I can certainly understand that, right? I mean, you got to get that.
Yeah. And you look at a lot of things now, and it's just a strange way to look at things. You got kids coming. It's weird because you got kids coming out of college in their 20s and early 30s. We're still living at home with mommy and daddy, but you got a guy. It's weird. The window of opportunity is like 32 to 39. That's like the optimum window to be hired.
Yeah.
And that's a small, narrow window that's not fair with all the loopholes in the laws and all the ways that businesses can get away with shit now. They should be looking at the older workforce to say, hey, you know what? I will pay you this, which is lower than what you made. You may be overqualified. I don't have to give you benefits, but guess what? If you stay home living off your Social Security, you're fucked.
Right.
So,
Great
a lot
point.
of people who are given say, hey, take the job at once. That's why they take it.
Excellent
And
point.
more people should open it up to the older workforce for those reasons.
Let's take it the opposite end. And Kieran mentioned this in the chat room. Kieran's 18, lives in the United Kingdom. Pretty similar situation with the workforce in the UK that's here in the United States, right, Joel? I think that would be a fair assessment.
Absolutely.
Right, okay. Kieran says you also have to take the polar opposite. He's 18. He's applied for well over 100 jobs. He lives on his own. He got one reply, and they never got back to him after his interview.
Well,
so what about the younger?
Where this comes from right now?
Well, what's
The
that?
younger crowd, Kev, I'm sorry, but I got to be honest with you, and I don't know how you feel about this, but my truth of the matter is, and I'll give you a good example. At the Holiday Inn Express, where I work now,
Mm-hmm.
in Port St. Lucie, we hired a 19-year-old. She has already been terminated. It is the attitude of a lot of the younger generation. I can't believe I'm saying this, and I'm only 33. The generation before me, they have a sense of entitlement.
Oh, yeah.
They have it's the attitude of the kids that are 18 to 21 that they don't want to learn, that they think they deserve more money, that they have a bad attitude.
But Joe, but what about the
not
kid?
everybody? It's the majority.
Right, but what about the kid like Kieran Bolton, who's a great kid, who just happens to be on his own at a very young age, who's dying for a job? What about a kid like that? Is it fair to that kid? No.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And somebody should give, and that's the other problem, Kev, is this. How many jobs did Kira apply in person as opposed to how many online? You can take 1,000 personality tests and fuck them all up. When I was a kid, Kev, and you were a kid, 15 years old, I got my first job at Splish Splash Water Park. I walked in, I filled out an application, and I talked to a manager. Nowadays, you're going on a website, filling out a 1,000-question personality test that if you get 2 questions wrong, you're automatically out of the pile. It's not fair.
Right, because they don't let you walk in really to so many places. I mean, you can walk into Walmart, but you still got to go to the damn computer. And Jimmy Graham will attest to this. The same thing happened with me with Best Buy. I would have loved to have worked at Best Buy when I was out of work for a long term, because I love electronics, I love Macintosh computers, but I couldn't even get past these like questions that really so yeah. I mean, there's some great point. You just brought up some of the best points, and I think we could probably talk about this for 45 minutes to an hour and still not come to a conclusion what can be done to fix it, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because, like I said, man, and you look at my girlfriend, for example, Kevin, and we'll go to the next topic after this.
Right.
She has applied, in most places she goes into, it's saying apply online. You can't get to anybody online. So for someone like Kira, who's a great person, someone like Kaylee, who's a great person, someone like whoever's watching the show who is in their 18 to 21 age, it's not fair, man. It's not. It
really isn't, especially when you have a personality that could really sell yourself in an interview, that you don't get to show that anymore. Like you always say about yourself, you could sell ice to an Eskimo. And I believe that because you have that personality, that if you used it in a job interview setting, you'd be able to sell yourself and get yourself a job of any caliber. I have a similar thing too. I'm very good with, interviews. But if you don't get that chance and you just fill out an application online, you're screwed forever. You really are, and it's despicable, isn't it?
One question: do you like purple, red, or green? And you answer green, and they want it red. You're disqualified.
You're done.
Like, how fair is that?
Exactly. Oh man. Oh boy. You just hit a grand slam here, brother. You really did, and I think you have a great perspective because you've been on all sorts of sides to this. So.
Yeah, look at me. I mean, look, I started out working at Splish Splash Water Park. I worked at Burger King. I worked at Wimpy. I worked at retail. I've done a lot, and that's where it helps me. But I do. I feel bad for someone like my girlfriend or like Kira, who is that age, that doesn't like tests, that doesn't feel like a personality test is them.
Right.
It's just a shame.
One question before we move on to sports. You were in St. Lucie West. You could have called me and picked me up, and we could have gone to Walmart together,
Oh, I know. Well, I should have done that, and I didn't do that.
That's okay. I'm just busting.
When you have 2 car seats taking up the entire back seat, and you get someone like myself to fit in the middle, and it's not really a conducive atmosphere for 5 people in a Lincoln Town Car. It's not as big as you might think.
That's Joel saying you're a fat ass, Kevin, and you wouldn't have fit. So sorry.
No. It's me saying, Kevin, did you look at my Facebook pictures today and look at the new car seat that I got Carter of how big it is?
Yeah, it is.
And how it takes up a 1.5 seats. No, you didn't even comment and say, "Oh man, Carter's new car seat is huge."
No.
You didn't say that.
No, I didn't see it. No, I didn't see it yet, but I know it's the first thing I'm going to do when I get off the air, so I just buried myself in a grave here, so I'm going to shut up, and let's move on, all right, to Derek Jeter, who I believe I think they're doing him such justice, the way they're covering this and giving him his due. Don't you agree?
I just threw up in my mouth. Listen, when everything started and he first announced his retirement, I took the avenue of saying, you know what? Derek Jeter is up there. You mentioned Ruth, you mentioned Garrett, you mentioned Mantle or DiMaggio. You have to take out Mantle or DiMaggio and slide Derek Jeter in there because of what he's done. Not because of just the championships, it's because of his attitude and the respect and all that. But now, how the media has taken ad nauseum Every time I turn on ESPN, every time I turn on anything, it's about Derek Jeter, and I'm pretty much fucking sick of it. And the more that they're showing this, the more stats that they're giving, the more and more I realize that Derek Jeter may have been the most overrated player of his generation. Not saying
Whoa.
he's bad, not saying that he doesn't have talent, but with everything that they're putting up, the all-time Yankee leader in steals, the all-time Yankee leader in this, the all-time Yankee leader in that. Shit, Ricky Henderson played 5 seasons for the Yankees and then 328 stolen bases in the amount of time it took Derek Jeter his entire career to get. Think about that.
Well,
So,
are you really comparing Ricky Henderson to Derek Jeter right now?
no, I'm not. But think about that. Derek Jeter is the Yankees' all-time steals leader. But shouldn't he be, Jeff, for playing for them for so long?
Well,
Think about that.
well,
Think about, just think about some of the stats he has accomplished with one team his whole career. The most at-bats, the most games played. I mean, come on.
well, in that same breath, what you could also say, why doesn't he have 715 home runs too? I mean, he could hit for power occasionally. So go one step further, then. No.
I will go one step further. Where's Yogi Berra's name mentioned? You told me before the air show today that he played on 10 World Series championship teams, and he appeared in 23 World Series. The Yankees have won 27 World Series. Why is Yogi Berra maybe mentioned in the top 10 Yankees? What about Bill Dickey? What about Whitey Ford? The Yankees just have so many iconic names that if you look at the 80s, you don't really have anybody that you can mention. You look at the 70s, maybe you have Thurman Munson, maybe you have a guy here or there.
Reggie.
But the Yankees fans and the Yankees fan base have been starving for a guy like Babe Ruth, like Lou Gehrig, like a Mickey Mantle, like a Joe D for 50 years. And when the Yankees brought up Derek Jeter in '95, they announced to the world that this is the new Babe Ruth. And I think it just kind of got overwhelmed now in the fact, and again, much respect to Derek Jeter. I loathe the Yankees, but I know baseball. Derek Jeter went about it the right way. But if you look at the ad nauseum coverage, the ad nauseum coverage is killing Derek Jeter, in my opinion.
Do you think if well, let me ask you this: if Derek Jeter were on another baseball team and he was retiring right now, would you have a different perspective about this because he was on a different team, and the fact that he's with the Yankees for his entire career makes it different, Joel?
If he was on the Mets, it might be different. I might be biased, to be honest with you. If he was on the Twins...
Well, no, don't use the Mets.
Pirates,
Don't use the Mets.
all right, if he was on the Twins, none of this would get coverage. If he was on none of this would... It's because he's a Yankee. It's because it's a big market. And it's because of what he's done for the game. But not taking anything about what he's done for the game. It's just some of the things that they're bringing out, it should happen when you stay your whole career. And I just think if it was the Twins, who are you going to say, Kirby Puckett? I mean, but it's the Yankees. You have Babe Ruth. It's just tough being that it's the Yankees.
Well, what if Derek Jeter had won a World Series in 1996, 98, 99, 2000, and 2009 with the Minnesota Twins? See, we're looking at the Minnesota Twins as the team that makes the playoffs every year and never gets past the first round. So what if he was with the team and it was a championship caliber team the way the Yankees were? Would that change it?
But I think it would change because you would have known, had the Twins won the World Series with Derek Jeter, you would have looked at the sum of all parts and known they didn't buy it. A lot of people use the argument that, well, Derek Jeter was part of a dynasty, the Yankees bought the talent. Now, you look at the dynasty, they did have Bernie Williams, they did have certain guys who were homegrown talents, but around that, to make the integral part of the pitching staffs of those championship teams, and I'm of the club that says pitching wins championships, they bought a lot of that. And if Derek Jeter was on another team, if he was that good, like on the Twins, then he could have won the World Series. But if you take away the parts the Yankees had, do the Yankees still win the World Series? Hell, you take away one player in Mariano Rivera, do the Yankees win that championship? Who's more beneficial to the dynasty that Derek Jeter won, himself or Mariano Rivera? That's another question.
Well, one of the things about Mariano, too, that people forget is he was responsible for losing a couple of World Series, too. So let's not forget that. Go to 2002. He had a big part in 2004 also with the Red Sox. So yeah.
2001?
Yeah, 2001. That's what I meant. I don't know why I said 2002. I'm sorry about that, right? Game 7 against Arizona out in the desert. And I've got to interrupt you for a second here because Mawa says she can't believe that she's listening to you because you're so calm right now. But there's a reason for that. Let Mawa know why.
I'm just calm in general because the kids are sleeping.
Yeah, the kids are sleeping, right?
The whole house is quiet, so I got to kind of maintain a sense of calm. Dear God, will I wake up Carter? Forget about it. I don't want to do that.
Well, the thing is, though,
41 at night.
Yes, exactly. But the thing is, if somebody just tuned into this program who knows you and heard you speaking and didn't see on the phone Joel McGuirk, they might not know who I'm talking to right now. How about that?
I'm a different person sometimes, man. Well, you have to. When you have kids, man, you have to make adjustments in your game sometimes. And I can do that pretty good.
She says you're still the big mouth. Yes, that hasn't changed, right, Joel? Please, come on.
No, I have a ton to say, man. I can go on and on, trust me.
Just can't scream it. We're talking to Joel the Mouth, who is a couple of miles away in Fort Pierce, Florida. And Mouthy, one of the benefits to your new job is that you're at the hotel. You get to see some of these Mets players, and I understand you had a run-in with a future Mets star the other day. Tell us about that.
All right. Now, a lot of hype has been made, especially after yesterday, the 17th, about a bullpen session with one Noah Syndergaard. First of all, when you see 6'6" pitcher in person, that's a tall motherfucker. Let me tell you, Kev.
Yeah.
He was standing next to a couple other Met players, and he towered, not just stood above, but he towered over these guys. And I got to say, I've seen other players, and I've met other players and went after autographs and this and that, but Noah Syndergaard, he was the most humble, nice guy that I've ever met. And you know, I really think all the hype that's following this kid after talking to him, I really think that he can handle all this. And you look at guys, let's take Randy Johnson, former Yankee, for example, who we thought, great pitcher, could he handle in New York? No. Noah Syndergaard is a guy who I think can handle it, man, who's got great stuff, man. So I think this kid is really something to watch out for. And when he was throwing his bullpen session, I had asked him about, you know, why did you take it to, he's like, I just went out there. I have no level but number 5. I just throw the ball. You know, I wanted to calm it down, but I couldn't. That's just me. And I like that attitude, man. Just do your hardest, work your hardest all the time, and get better. And I think that he's a guy who's going to get better, and he's a guy who the Mets are going to have a formidable 1-2-3 punch the next couple of years.
So now, are you getting overly giddy here now, and you're going to start to tell me again that you think it's possible that the New York Metropolitans could be a contender in the National League Eastern Division because of a few chats you had with Noah Syndergaard?
No, not this year. Not this year. They're still offensively. I think it's great what they did in the outfield. I think their infield still needs some work. You compare them to the Nationals, you compare them to the Braves, you compare them, I can't believe I'm saying this, but hell, you compare them to the Pirates, they're not offensively ready yet. They've made a lot of adjustments to the bullpen. I think their starting pitching is going to surprise some people this year. Bartolo Colon, I'm still on the fence about, but Dylan G, John Neese, and Zach Wheeler, I think is going to have a breakout year. They're going to surprise some people. They're going to finish third in the National League East. It's going to be the Nationals, the Braves, and then the Mets. But I think 2015, when Matt Harvey comes back, and don't forget, you got a lot of other guys like Rafael Montero, Tapia. You got a lot of guys in the Mets organization pitching-wise that are going to do some things in the next couple of years. But come July, it's going to be tough to watch. That's when we're going to see Noah come up. We'll be excited like a lot of people were with Harvey, but I think for Mets fans, this year is going to be kind of like the 1983, 84 type years where you're.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you now saying this is the 84 equivalent of the Mets? That team was fun.
I'll say 83. There's no Keith Hernandez trade yet.
Okay.
But let's jump back and say 83. 84, they finished second. I think in 85, they finished second.
Right.
They're a second baseman and a shortstop away from a decent, organization. Chris Young, I'm not sure about. I like the Curtis Granderson thing. But I think a few more offensive moves. Their pitching is solid. I think in the next couple of years, the Mets are going to do some things. I think we're going to get a run like 1986 and then by 2015 or 2016, we're going to see a Mets World Series. 2016. I'm going to say 2016.
Fair. What do you think of Eric Young Jr. leading off? I like the kid. I like his speed. I like the fact that he can go from first to third in 2 pitches. Are you sold on him?
I love it. I think if he gets an everyday shot, I think it's going to be interesting. I think the battle, if he's going to play the infield or the outfield, it's going to be interesting to see where a lot of Mets fans are looking at first base between Ike Davis and Lucas Duda. I think, as much as we all love Daniel Murphy and we know he can hit, don't forget about speed. Speed kills. So if EY Young can get a battle against Daniel Murphy, get his back going, it'd be interesting to see where that goes.
Why does everybody always get so down on Daniel Murphy when he's the consistently best player on the team the last couple of years, though? I don't understand that, Joel. Please explain it to me.
It's defensively. It's base running. It's mental baseball. Yeah, we all know that Daniel Murphy can hit. We all know that. And think about, here's someone I can compare. I think you can make a lot of comparisons to. Look at Ray Ordonez. He gave him a lot of Mets fans gave him
the opposite
because of what he defensively.
Exactly. Right.
But if you can do defense and not hit, it's one thing. But if you're hitting and not doing defense, that's another thing. And Daniel Murphy has made some egregious mistakes that I think any baseball fan with an IQ of 1, baseball-wise, wouldn't make. And I think that's why a lot of Mets fans could be upset with Daniel Murphy.
But doesn't that go back to partly the fact that he's not playing his natural position right now? If he were playing first or third, wouldn't he be better suited than playing second, which is not his natural position, Joel?
Tough shit. You're in the major leagues now, and when your team calls upon you to learn another position, you are a baseball lifer. Daniel Murphy has played baseball his entire life. If your team comes to you, how many players have we heard that were, let's take Rick Ankiel, for example, who was a pitcher who was shit after one bad outing and played the outfield and now guns people down from 453 feet out in left field. He's adjusted. He's played his position. If you are a true baseball player, you can make any adjustment in any position, especially on the infield. Going from third to second, so you go from the hot corner to second base. I mean, and I know people are like, well, you don't know a lot about baseball, but I played third and second. Yes, there's a difference. I understand that. But if you're playing baseball all your life, you should be able to play any position on the infield.
Good point. We're talking with Joel the Mouth, who just earlier was saying how much he can't stand Tiger Woods. And Joel, Tom says in the chat room, sorry, causing trouble here because he said nothing about Tiger Woods in the chat at all. Okay. But Tom wants us to become a regular segment where you report on the next Mets who are hyped up and who suck in the majors. How does that sound?
No, I could do that. And I think as much as I've been talking about Noah Syndergaard, there's one guy who I think is not mentally. You want to hear about a guy who's got a lot of hype, who's going to be a flop? How about this? Rafael Montero. You all hear about him. You all think he's the next coming of this and that, or some kind of great closer or that. That guy has the mental capacity of a 2-year-old.
Have you met him?
He is not mentally ready to play baseball for the New York Mets.
Is he staying in the hotel or what?
Let me tell you something. I probably shouldn't be divulging this information, but I really don't give a shit.
There's no privacy clause.
He's staying at the hotel,
right.
And he was getting call after call from females.
Oh,
he was
God.
getting a slew of groupies, and he couldn't handle it. He wound up checking out of the hotel, going to another place, had a lot of questions. He's not mentally ready to play baseball on a professional level, period.
Wow.
He's letting the fame get to him. Oh, they know who Rafael Montero is. Send him up to my room. I know this person. I know that person. No, you can't go about it.
I don't know Rafael Montero until you just said it. I mean, so I don't know what this guy thinks his crap doesn't stink or what, but I mean, really, good that he's been sent back to earth, for crying out loud. And there's one other person, Joel. My uncle Mugga out in San Diego is asking, what do you think, what are you expecting from Travis d'Arnaud this year? It's going to be his first full season as the catcher. He's not going to have John Buck around to teach him anymore. Is this a year for him to break out, or does he still get another year for that?
I think this year he's going to be in between a Todd Hundley and a Gary Carter. In between. He's not going to be quite the breakout, but he's not going to be quite the disappointment.
That's still good, though. That's a good catcher.
Yeah, I know. He's going to give you something to be optimistic about. And I think, he's ready. He's mentally prepared. I think his injury thing that a lot of people are talking about, he's worked hard this season. I talked to Pedro Lopez, the Double-A coach. He also talked to the strengthening coach. He's staying at the hotel. And he said that DRDU is taking it seriously. He's ready to take it to the next level. He's mentally ready. He's healthy. He's healthier now than he's ever been in the last couple of years. So I think this is going to be a lot of learning, but a lot of positivity coming from this guy. And he might, be that guy like Gary Carter in a couple of years who's going to be a leader of this team, along with what David Wright's going to be able to do. And I think he's a guy, when you look at the great Mets teams, and you look at teams that were successful with the Mets, even going back to 69, 73, the catcher was a mainstay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you could say all you want about the catching position, it's the toughest in baseball, but look at, and Mets fans know what I'm talking about. You look at any successful Mets team, they had a successful catcher, and I think DRDU is one of these guys who can do that.
You bring up a great point. It was Jerry Grody, it was Ron Hodges, it was Mackey Sasser or Barry Lyons and Ed Hearn. It was, but even in 2006, Paulo Duca was a great addition to that team. I loved his spark. And you're right. Like that's the type of and the more you keep saying about this, the more the year 1983 rings a bell in my head. So I think you pretty much hit this analysis right on the head, Mouthy.
Yeah. Well, think about it. Like you said, Paulo Duca, all the catchers. You look at the catching position. You got DRDU, who's learning, who's going to get better. You look at first base. You don't have a Keith Hernandez yet, but who knows what's going to happen there. You look at second base. You still don't know. You got David Wright, a face of a franchise. You got Grant. You got a lot of things, and then you got guys in the minor league system. A Brandon Nimmo, a lot of these other guys who could be successful. So, and with the way the Mets spent this year, they didn't go gangbusters, but you never know. They might add a piece like a Gary Carter. They might add a piece like a Keith Hernandez. They have the pitching, and that's, you look at 86, it wasn't Dwight Gooden who led the staff. It was fucking Bob Ojeda. It was a Sid Fernandez. It was a Ron Darling. But the Mets have a couple of those, with Matt Harvey, what he's going to be like, with the Zach Wheeler. Shit, with a Jonathan Neese who might get the opening day start. When was the last time, Kev, that you could say that the Mets on their roster had 3 possible guys to start opening day? You have that right now. You have 4 Mets pitchers with Dylan G, Jonathan Neese, Zach Wheeler, and Bartolo Colon who could start opening day.
Yeah, I can't remember.
When was the last time you could say that?
I can't even remember because, there was a point where it was Pedro and Glavine, and that's it. That's all I can really think of, really.
John Maine got an opening day start.
Right. Mike Pelfrey got an opening day start. That's a great point. It is. You're going back to maybe like 1999 here or 2000 when you had Bobby Jones and when you had Al Leiter. I would say Mike Hampton in 2000. So there were 3 in 2000. And who was the other? I can't remember. There was another starter that year, but the point is very well taken. It's 53 past the hour, and we're almost done with this show, Mouthy. And we've hit 2 topics. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's what. And for all the people listening out there, they know when you and I get on the air, that's what happens. We can go on and on about one thing. We can go on and on about another. But they're getting good insight. They're getting shit that they want to hear about. And, that's the best thing, man. We just flow, man. Who cares?
It's so true.
Off air. For those who don't know, let's just let people know. When you're putting a show together, you have a list of topics. And whether you get to them or not, it's inconsequential, man. When you get chemistry going, shit just flows. And sometimes you only talk about one thing. Oh, shit. If you don't like it, they can tune out. But everyone's in the chat room. Everyone's hanging out, and it's great stuff, man.
That is so true.
Night, Kevin Kness.
It is so true. And you know what? I just looked at my notes. I have them on my desktop. I got like sticky notes. I have 14 points, and we got to 2. American Winter and the Mets. We didn't get to House of Cards, the pastor who got bit by a snake and died, sex offenders, Jimmy Fallon, the hijacking of the plane, this guy washing windows in Dubai, these other things that I wanted to get to, so we didn't even touch it. But it doesn't matter.
All right, you ready? Here.
Yeah.
Here we go. Don't fucking play with snakes when you're praising God. House of Cards, an amazing show. Jimmy Fallon is not Johnny Carson and Jay Leno. And fuck everything else you just said. There you go.
How do you really feel, Joe? Please tell me.
Just wanted to break it down.
Before we go, we should have ended it on that note because it was a great note. I want you to look. Well, you can't look at anybody anyway, but let's see that picture of you sitting at the studio of WVTT up in Olean, New York, at the microphone.
With a nice tie on.
Right, with a nice tie and a dress shirt, like one of the only times I've ever seen you wear a tie or a shirt, dress shirt. And I want you to look Bill Scarterfield in the eye, 2,000 miles across the country, and tell him that the Mets are going to have a better record than the Phillies this year, because I think you're out of your mind if you think that.
I believe it. The Mets will win 10 more games than the Phillies will win this year. Bet it. The Phillies, they're old. They're over the hill. They're counting on Ryan Howard and Cliff Lee. I'm sorry. But yeah, the Mets are going to win at least 10 more games than the Phillies this year. I believe it.
Wow. And now we officially know that Joel has been drinking heavily this evening. Oh, boy. Just kidding. Hey, Mouthy, not only are we, look, you're just the best friend a person could ask for, and our chemistry here is phenomenal, and I can't thank you enough for this. This really was a great surprise. I really can't. I love when we get to do this.
Absolutely. I just want to, I know there's 3 minutes before the top of the hour.
Oh, we don't have to get off exactly.
Yeah. I have to make a comment on the air instead of on Facebook. Your comment the other day about the weather and how, recently I was up in Olean, and it was snowing, it was cold, and it sucked balls, to be honest with you. All you people who are dealing with the cold and the snow, that's your fucking fault. That's your decision. So stop posting about bitching and complaining about the snow and the cold. Just get out of it. That's it. I am, as much as I would miss doing the show every day on a sports radio station, I am so glad to be in South Florida, wearing shorts and T-shirts every day. But I see more posts about the weather. It's just befuddling, man.
Unlike you at WVTT, I have a mic. I have a cough button. And you cheap bastard that Jeff Androlonis was. And you were so right, because I used every day. My mother complains about going out and shoveling, and I say, listen, you could sell your house in New Jersey and buy 4 of them down here in Port St. Lucie. So enough of the whinging, just get here, for crying out loud, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. That was hilarious. That was great. Mouthy, what a pleasure. We got to do it again very, very soon, brother.
Well, hey, let me tell you this. I'm getting internet back. I'm getting everything situated here in Fort Pierce, so I'll be coming back. So I'll be back on a regular basis here on DARPA TV as soon as it's situated. And the Casey and the Mouth show may be making a weekly appearance for all those who don't know. So things are coming. Just be patient, everybody. I know Tom, Bill, Wawa a little bit, everyone who's a regular, Maddie Harrison, all those people who haven't heard from me or seen me. I'm getting my house in order, and things are coming around.
Awesome. And I can't wait for that, because Casey in the Mouth just kicks ass like this did. And I should have played the beginning of this show. I should have played Casey in the Mouth. In fact, I'm going to.
You can sing it right now?
I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it as soon as we get off. Thank you, buddy.
Kevin Canessa, good night. And from the King George Estate in downtown Fort Pierce, Florida, thank you very much.
See you later, brother. Thank you.
See you later.
There he is, the great Joel the Mouse, from a couple of miles away. This is our little theme song that we used to use whenever we do Casey in the Mouth. I got to interview Casey the other day, and man, that was great. He was awesome. Casey, of course, from Miami, so he was playing in Fort Pierce, the town that Joel lives in, a couple of weeks ago, and he was a very, very fun interview. And next show, remind me to tell you that I spoke with Bill Cosby on the phone the other day for 45 minutes, interviewed him. Got some great stories about Bill Cosby. But I really want to say a special word of thanks to my dear friend Joel McGurk, Joel the Mouth, for joining me for 45 minutes tonight. It's always a pleasure when we get to talk, and I think we're better when we do things together. So it's always an honor and a privilege to be able to share the airwaves with Joel. A special word of thanks to our buddy Kieran Bolton for showing up here tonight and spending time with us here from the United Kingdom. It's going on 4 a.m. in his neck of the woods, so how more grateful could I be to Kieran and, of course, to Maddie, who are here from the United Kingdom, where they should really, really be sleeping. And, of course, to my Uncle Muga, love you too, Uncle, and to every single one of you out there, always, always a grateful Kevin Canessa, knowing that you guys could be doing anything else with your time, but instead you're sitting here and watching me bore you to death. So I can't thank you enough for that. So that'll do it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow, 7 Eastern Time, here on DARPATV.com. Don't forget to tune in for that, followed by Chop Shop TV. From Port St. Lucie, Florida, Canessa signing off. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And, of course, many thanks also to Bill Scarterfield, who I screwed over. He got home early, and I postponed the show till later. Good night, everybody. See you later, G.